Hi, good morning, guys. Hope you all are doing well. This is the ninth episode of the Letter. We have had a lot of amazing conversations in the past with various leaders in the area of technology and management. If you haven't checked it already, please go and check it. I mean, you will find a lot of inspiring and a lot of useful conversations there. And please don't forget to subscribe to Board Infinity if you have not already. You will always be notified whenever we come online or we do any new sessions. Um, Today, I'm very excited to have Divya with me for multiple reasons. We're going to have a very exciting conversation. One, I think Divya has been a very inspiring young HR leader, and we will, get to know a lot about, these things from her. We also try to dig deep into her career and learn from her journey into multiple sectors and, whatever decision that she has taken. And lastly, we'll also, try to understand the hiring process from an HR angle. A lot of time we miss that. We'll try to understand that as well. Divya is currently working with Flipkart as director HR. She has 10 years of amazing experience wherein she has taken national and international profiles with top companies like Unilever, Flipkart, GE Healthcare, Xseed Education. Divya, interestingly, also had a short entrepreneurship stint wherein she co-founded the company called GoWise. She has a lot of personal and professional accomplishments. She has received many prestigious awards. The list is very, very long. I will take few names. She has got award. She has been awarded HR 40 under 40, 2017 Economic Times Young Leadership Award, 2017 People Matters Award, National Excellence in HR Award, HUL Legacy Award, HUL Compass Award, and many, many more. Thank you so much, Divya, for taking time out today and joining us for today's session. How are you? How are you handling your work during COVID nowadays?
My pleasure, Abhay. Thanks for a very generous introduction, and thanks for inviting me as well. It's pretty exciting to, share some of the thoughts which could actually help the young crowd out there. So, yeah, I think thanks a lot, first of all. Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So Divya, we will start from the very beginning. So you had done your engineering and computer science from VIT, and post that you were working with G. If I look at it, this is a dream start for a lot of people. And but even after that, you decided to go for MBA. So I mean, can you tell us why you were very keen on doing MBA early in your career at that time?
Sure. I think, see, after I completed my engineering, right? So, I mean, I was, in a way, fortunate to get campus placed in GE as a software engineer. So I converted, I went as an intern. I started kind of working there and converted as a PPO. While the work was really good, what I started realizing while I was working there was somehow I was getting more inclined towards the big picture of the business, the strategy, how the overall company is performing as compared to say, really being limited to coding something or going deep. I think that was again something which I found is more interest to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that that's better or something, but I think I started enjoying that much more. And organically I started getting involved in those conversations with my manager, with my HR BPs there, etc. So that's when a lot of people told me that you really have that bent to you, right? And there was always this thing in my mind that whether I should go for an MS or an MBA, etc. But I think while working here I discovered that where my natural inclination is, and my natural strength is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I pursued MBA going forward. So that was the decision making point for me, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about your B school journey? How was your overall experience, and what were your focus areas in those 2 years?
Yeah, I think pretty exciting period. I think the 2 years in MBA, in fact, life changing to a great extent, because
Mhm.
I feel that that's a place where you actually grow from a kid into an adult to a great
Right.
extent. Because I think in engineering it's mostly it's a very nice feeling. You're still young, you're still kind of fiddling with the new world. But I think when you come to MBA, you actually start seeing the competitiveness around you.
Yeah.
So you start seeing that, oh my God, I mean, there's so many things, there's so many good people, and the opportunities are limited. How do you kind of make, I think that starts introducing you to some of these aspects of the real world also.
Mhm.
How do you excel, how do you survive, how do you keep doing your best, and to ensure that you are never kind of left behind, to
Right.
say so, right?
Right.
And I think very rigorous journey for me I had, especially in the first year. I think most of the B school grads face this. The first year is always very rigorous, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because and also as an engineer, when you come, you're like completely new to economics, statistics, not statistics actually, the financial
Right.
aspects, right? The accounting, and you see some of these accounting folks being very chill during those days. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
it was quite a change. I think that was an experience of how do you start unlearning certain things and start learning new things. I think that was the first stage where I started experiencing that. And again, I think that was a period where I also was very clear that when I have to go for my career from here onwards, I have to be very, very careful, or I have to be very sure of what I want to do.
Sure.
So that was quite a pressure, right? And obviously, in the first year of an MBA, many of us, we don't really have a clarity on which discipline to take.
Right.
Whether it should be marketing, HR, finance, you're like kind of confused. So
Hmm.
you then it just becomes like a general MBA for the first year, and then when internship happened to me from
Yeah.
Levers, that's when
Yeah.
I became very sure that I want to get into HR, because I think I got an internship in HR. I started getting introduced to a lot of new constructs in an organization, to say
Hmm.
so. I mean, I had
Yeah.
some preconceived notions in the past about what an HR does, or what a marketing does, or what it is. But I think when you start seeing things, doing things on your own, I think that's when you start realizing that it's much different than what was thought of earlier. So then the big thing then led me to take HR was, I realized that this is a place where at a very early stage of your career, you start getting involved into some of the big decisions for the company,
Hmm.
and you start interacting with very senior folks in the organization. So for for a same level, or for a same age, uh, uh, as compared to the cohort that you are working in, you will have to, in HR, that will actually force you to be much more matured, much more uh, kind of challenging yourself, much more agile as compared to
Hmm.
the others, because I think that becomes a very fundamental nature of your job.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's what started exciting me, because it would challenge me on a daily basis, because the kind of problems are new. You would never get bored in this place. Every place has a new type of a problems. People change, businesses change. There is no routine here, to say so.
Right.
To
Right.
a great extent in sales also, you start getting into that routine after a point of time, or within in financial reporting sorts also, you could get into that routine. But I think this was one place where I thought there was no chance for you to kind of get into routine. And I like that adrenaline rush, and I kind of like that excitement to come my way. And that's when I made that choice that this is the place for me to get in.
Great. Great.
Yeah,
So we'll try and take a step back. I come from a similar background, and I have seen a lot of my friends who are very, very, keen and passionate about getting into Unilever, right? And so, did you also had the same, passion for Unilevers? And
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I
and
think right from the day one of getting into college, I'd heard so much about Unilever from my seniors, from other folks in our network. It was definitely a super dream company, right? And I
mhm.
think I really wanted to get into it, so I was very, very keen on that right from the day one, I would say.
And Divya, can you share a few tips that you had followed, for your preparation during that time to get into the company?
So I think I would say for Unilever, and also for a lot of other companies which come for HR, right? I think so. My very crisp and clear tips would be, from a functional knowledge standpoint, I think we should really focus on the IR aspects and the
Mhm.
the organization behavior as a subject. I think I was I was kind of prepared. Started preparing for it right from the beginning. In
Mhm.
fact, because I really didn't want to miss out on some of those things. There is obviously the second aspect of it, which is more of a behavioral event interview. So understand about the culture of the place,
Right.
and first, I think genuinely assess whether that culture fits for you, because many a time we tend to start fabricating answers or fabricating things just to force fit into a culture. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, the interviewers are very smart. They'll figure it out, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it's whether they've been through your journey themselves, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
some point of time. So I think it's to study that culture, first of all, self-assess and be confident that whether you would fit there or not, and then have your prepare yourself in a way that you can communicate and articulate very clearly on what how you see that fit emerging between the company and you, right? And I've seen most of these organizations, I think, while the functional test is usually around the labor laws and the org behavior and they will in fact ask you, because in the first year for internship especially, nobody expects you to be like a pro in everything, right? I mean, they would actually ask you what is that area which are you are interested. So at least have that point of view developed, and whatever interests you, it could be comp and ben, it could be L&D, whatever interests you, study deeply into that, so
Hmm.
that at least there is one area which you are very sure of, the fundamentals. I mean, at least the strong fundamentals are there. And I think 70% of the interview will be on the behavioral interview
Right.
sorts, where
Right.
they will try to assess the fit. They will try to see whether from their values, from their everyone have their own standards of leadership. Like Unilever has a standards of leadership, right? So similarly, I think Flipkart has its own competencies that they assess. So I think they usually try to see the fit to that. So I think
Got
these
it.
are the only two things which I would uh, leave the students with.
Great. Great. Thanks. Yeah. So my next question, Divya, is Unilever's, you had like I think a 6 year stint with them, right? And therein you had like a lot of role changes in between also.
Yeah.
So can you talk in detail what was your journey for those 6 years? What were other different functions you were exposed to in that journey?
So I think that's one of the beautiful things about a company like a Unilever, and in fact, these days I think a lot of organizations are going that route. Early on in the career, I mean, I would strongly advocate building the breadth of experiences.
Hmm.
So I think that's the mantra I got from my coaches and mentors in the organization, and I kind of used it. So I started with a factory stint. Because that exposes you to a very different kind of an
Right.
environment where you have to manage IR issues, there are unions to manage, there are settlements to do. At the same time, how do you bring in uh, the next futuristic thinking, right? I mean, it's a combination of both. You have to take care of here and now, that plant should run, and you should also ensure that there is a long term thinking, right?
Right.
Then
Right.
I kind of went into the sales HR. So there again, it's a very different world from a factory HR, because there it's more about how do you keep the sales force motivated, understanding how they work, how do you set them up for success, how to kind of their incentives, and the entire life cycle for them. It's a very different persona of people there, right?
Hmm.
Then I kind of got an opportunity to work on one of the key projects along with the CEO office there, to say so, right? And as a part of it, I actually transitioned into the sales COE team.
Hmm.
So it's like from HR to sales COE, because it really needed you to understand the grassroots to the deep level, and it was more about going into depth of what a distributor salesman goes through. Because I think we as an organization used to do a lot of things for our employees, but there was a lot that we could do for the last mile folks, right? So I then kind of moved to the COE to understand and actually get to the depth of how they work, and what is their environment looking like. Then I again came back to HR, into the HR services space, where so HR services is more about the entire talent acquisition bit, the workforce management, HR operations per se, as a lot of organizations call it, and the blue collared payroll operations, etc. And I think that role itself was a very different flavor. It introduced me to very new concepts which I had not faced in the earlier roles, right? I think it was more about how do you start thinking digital, how do you start thinking metrics wise, how do you start forging good relationships within the organization, the human behavior starts showing a lot of a lot of these things. How do you ensure that that's combining well to ensure you are driving metrics? I think that was a very very different muscle that it this role helped me build, right? So, and I think looking in the hindsight, I really feel that the first few years, because that's the place where you learn the most, it's best to do diverse roles
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think it's super useful. I mean, people early in their career they try to go for depth as compared to breadth,
Yes.
and that's something which is really useful. Shared. Um, I think in post your Unilever experience, you got into an edtech company which is Xseed Education.
Yes.
So would like to know more about that particular transition. Why did you go for the transition one, and how did you prepare for that? I mean, was it really difficult moving from FMCG 6 years to edtech at that time?
Yeah. So I think levers really helped me build that breadth of experiences, right? As I just spoke about.
Right.
And then I was very clear that, I wanted to now start applying most of these experiences that are there. And I want to really apply myself in a environment which is unprotected,
Right.
to kind of have a 0 to 1 kind of an experience, right? Because in a bigger organizations, I mean, I was in a way fortunate, and a lot of people like in Levers is well known for giving big jobs to people, big projects, but I think somewhere you're well protected in that environment, right? So I really wanted to test myself, and I was sure that I may not be able to do this very nicely at a later stage. So this is the best way I can hedge my risks to a great extent. So I was like, it's okay. I mean, let me take a risk, let me jump in. And that's how I kind of got introduced to Exceed. I really loved the founding team there, and I spoke to had real great conversations where the people there, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
interacted
yeah.
yourself. So quite a visionary leadership that they had. All of them also come from very good backgrounds, so that really excited me. That it will really help me push my boundaries beyond what I'm doing here, and I'll be able to unleash a different side to myself. And that was also a part of diversity of experience, to say so, that I wanted to build in, right? So that's how this happened. From a prep standpoint, again, I would say that it really was around the culture fit. I
Mhm.
think that remains, right. I mean, at any
Yeah.
point of time you go for an interview, I think that will be very clear. And my past experiences did help me land that, because I think this job really needed somebody to have a hands-on experience of how to build policies, how to build processes, how do we ensure that hardcore knowledge of HR, to say so, that if
Right.
you have to build something from the scratch, how what would that be, along with the capability of the maturity of being with the leadership, the bias for action, and the kind of the cultural fit to the values of the place. So I think the earlier experiences did help me build that functional knowledge very well. And I think the culture fit, obviously, I myself realized it when I started talking to some of these leaders of the team. I felt that, yeah, I really connect with them very well. So that's how it worked out, to be honest. Yeah.
Nice. And you had joined Exceed as head of human resource, and then I think you had a
Yes.
brief stint with them as GM sales also.
Yes.
So can you
Yes.
tell us more about that particular stint?
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of startups, right? I mean, you get the opportunities wherever you want to try yourself out, and I think it's out there. So I think once we had brought in the HR to a great extent. In fact, when I had initially moved in, we only had the TA team, as we had like a couple of recruiters in the name of HR. So it was quite an experience to actually build the HR team from there, to like how do we creating the bands, the compensation strategy,
Right.
establishing PMS for the first time, creating documented policies for the first time, reviewing how should to in fact actually from a legal statutory standpoint, ensuring that we are well protected as we are growing as an organization, to build that skeleton
Mhm.
from an HR standpoint for the organization. I think once that was done, I also wanted to see. I usually have this mantra from, again, I picked this from Levers. I really feel that in that one year of a stint with sales that I did, I really felt that I was becoming more closer to the business. So even
Mhm.
when I came to HR, I was able to have that very close connect because I could speak their language. I
Right.
could empathize with them better because I've gone through what they've gone through.
Right.
So
Right.
that was a motivation for me, that while doing this role, I was also within Exceed, like for some time I was also helping them anchor some of the businesses part of it, the P&L parts of it. And then I moved into sales as well, to just understand and go through what they're kind of going through. And also that was a need of the business at that point of time.
Right. Got it.
So that's why I kind of made that shift.
Okay. Okay. And post that you got into Flipkart. Tell us more
Yes.
about that, and tell us more about your current role at Flipkart.
Yeah, so Flipkart, then again, I think it really, I could really visualize it as a, uh, part of the puzzle, the
Mhm.
missing part of the puzzle, right? I think I had like a end to end plus one experience in levers.
Yeah.
This gave me 0 to 1 exceed. I think
Right.
this was somewhere in the middle,
Right.
right? I think so. You have the basic processes, policies in place, but I think there are a lot that we could do, and the organization has a lot of appetite
Yeah.
to kind of establish the best practices from a next gen thinking,
Mhm.
because it's beautifully placed in a way that we are not too biased with some of the old legacies which exist,
Yeah.
and at the same time we don't really have too much of a streamlined process there. So it gives a lot of it kind of gives a white canvas for you to paint on, that
Right.
how should my best talent management practices be there, how should the talent branding kind of constructs, which are more the next phase of it, right? I mean, usually a startup wouldn't think of all of these things as that important, but as an organization which is at this scale, of Flipkart. I mean, they have to kind of start investing into those. How do you ensure that from a capability standpoint, from a frontline management standpoint, how do we ensure that we do the next gen uh, kind of practices in place? That's how Flipkart happened to me, and I think that really excited me when I ended up speaking to some of these folks. And in fact, actually, both for Exceed and Flipkart, it was never like a recruiter call sort of a thing for me, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it just
Yeah.
happened that I had those conversations, in a very not really from a job motivated standpoint, but I ended up connecting with some of these folks and started talking about how it is. So it helped me assess the culture of that place very well.
Right.
So that's when you also understand that, yeah, this is a place that you have to kind of go in, and it helps you make the right choices there. And that's what happened. Currently I kind of partner a technology organization within Flipkart. So the entire part, so if I were to explain to you on the from an app standpoint, so the supply chain technology, which starts from, say, the order checkout till the order delivery,
Right.
right? So that entire technology that comes there, so it's a team of say around 400 engineers and product managers. The second team that I partner is so it's called as a selection ecosystem team, which is basically, so it's a culmination of marketplace, retail, pricing and promotions, all of that which you see. So it's a full functional end to end bit, the technology aspects of that. So that would be around a 300 member org. And then I kind of head the HR for Flipkart Israel.
Right.
So we kind of done a Israel acquisition 2 years back. So that's again a very interesting problem to solve. Culturally very different set of
Yeah.
people. Very motivated, a very startup kind of a culture there. How do you kind of get the best of both worlds together to ensure that we get the output which is like the next class thing for us, right? So I think that's what I'm working on currently. Okay.
I really like the way you break your journey into n to n plus one, 0 to 1, and 1 to n. Okay. So I had a question. I mean, how do you ensure the DNA and the core of the company is intact when you're trying to take this journey from 1 to n? Let's
Yeah.
say in case of Flipkart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something which keeps us awake daily, right? Because many times when you tend to make some changes, you have to be conscious that it doesn't lose out on that. The spirit of Flipkart is still that, young, energetic, startupish, where people love to come together when there is one kind of, what to say, when there is one problem at hand that you have to
Yeah.
solve, or there is
Yeah.
a crisis at hand. I think you see a very different Flipkart at that point of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So we want to keep that energy alive, right,
Mhm.
as we kind of go. And at the same time, we cannot like leave it completely free handed like what it would be like in a startup. We have to ensure that there are some processes and systems in place, because now we are what, like a 10,000 plus organization. You cannot just work just like that. 10,000 plus is only, I'm saying, the white collared workforce
Yeah.
in head office, that say, right? I mean if I take across the country, we will be like 20,000 plus, to say so. We cannot work with a complete fluid structure also. So
Right.
it's about that fine balance of, what are the aspects that I should, and what are the aspects I should not touch. So that's in fact that's the conversation which plays out in any decision that we have to make in people. So, and I see that as a part of a core DNA of us. As we see, you talk about performance, or you talk about talent or compensation, anything. I think this is something which the leadership also asks us, and this is something which is there on the minds of the folks who make this always. Yeah.
Great. So Divya, when I look at your career, I mean, of last, let's say, 10 years, it looks like a well-crafted story, right? You move from places to places, and now you are like completely satisfied and convinced that you have taken those right calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my question to you is that, I mean, if you look back, do you see there are few things that you could have done better uh,
Huh.
to be in a better position at this moment?
So, I'm a firm believer of the fact that, the dots always connect backwards.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, there have been points at my career. I mean, I will not say that, everything was hunky dory. There have been points where I start questioning, and given the passionate kind of a individual I am, I start questioning my entire existence to to
Yeah.
say so. Like, did I take the right call? Is this did I really take the right call of even getting into MBA, even getting into HR? I mean, why did I even do this? There are those moments. But what I've realized over the last few years is whenever I've been through that low of where I start questioning everything in my life around me, whether I've done the right thing, I've taken the right call, few years down the line, I always feel that, it's so good that that thing happened.
Right.
Had it not happened, I don't think I would have reached where I've reached, to be very honest.
Right.
And I've had such experiences twice or thrice now, to kind of say so. Okay, so let me talk about an example, maybe. So when I co-founded that startup, when I had to exit that startup, it was like a heartbreak for me,
Yeah.
because I'd almost made up my mind that I'm never going to get into a corporate world. When I
Hmm.
started it, the way it initially we got a good traction because e-commerce was budding at that point of time, and I really started enjoying it because it was about uh, it had a very strong purpose to it, right? We had to kind of onboard the grassroots sellers onto our platform, and we really had to ensure that we get customers to them. And to the customers, the value proposition is they get a cheaper price, because we started seeing that that area has so much of these middlemen who are eating money, and it's not giving goodness to the grassroots, and at the same time not doing justice to the customers. So it had a very strong purpose.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started loving it. I think I kind of fell in love with it, and I think that's what most founders and co-founders end up doing, right? I mean, when
Right.
you do it. And we kind of initially, when I still remember when we served our first order, that was a very different thrill. I think it's more passionate than the first love, that I would say, that that's the kind of a thing that you get. So it was going very well, and in fact I was in that mind space that I would even leave the offers that I had, the PPO I had from HUL, etc., because I was so convinced that I'm going to ace this. But I think, yeah, Amazon happened, and then these guys had big monies, and we started struggling there, and we had to actually exit from there. So we just then started thinking about how do I make it operationally profitable. Whatever the initial orders we had got, we kind of serviced it. We ensured that the quality was good. We ended up making good relationships in that whole thing, and having good networks. But that was a heartbreaking moment for me.
Yeah.
I felt that I'm good for nothing in life. This is not what I want to. But I think now when I see it, I see that that experience is helping me in most of the roles that I'm doing even today.
Yeah.
Maybe had I not done that, I might not have been able to kind of get connected with what the business wants in such a strong way, because there I've been there, done that to a great
Right.
extent.
Right.
So I know what the CEO of an organization goes through, whatever the scale it is. The scale of problems may be different, but that emotion remains same, right?
Right.
So you can start empathizing with the business leaders much stronger. And I think from an HR standpoint, that is a very, very strong quality as you get
Right.
forward.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I would say. It's like, in hindsight, it just feels that whatever mistakes were there, it's worth it. So
Right.
yeah,
I had a small follow-up question to that,
sure.
and I listen this from a lot of people when they say that when you look backward, the dots connect, right?
Yeah.
So what do you ensure that when you're looking at, let's say, next 5 years, right? So how will you ensure that, how are you planning your career in those next 5 years, so that once you take that 5 year journey, you look back and you see that things are, everything is falling in place that day.
So I'll tell you something. I mean, I used to have this fantasy some time back that I can really control things in my life, and I can really put in a proper plan that 5 years I'll do this, 10 years I'll do this. But trust me, it doesn't happen. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a practical reality. What one can do is to ensure that they're always on a lookout of the right opportunities in what they are doing,
Mhm.
and keep acing at it. I think it's ultimately that present that's in your control to a great extent.
Right.
So doing excelling in what you're doing currently will definitely position you for the best things in future. I
Sure.
think that's one thing which you can control. Directionally, you can have a sense. Obviously, directionally, you should have a sense to say that, uh, where do I want to see myself? That is your ambition, but don't get too married to it. That,
Mhm.
if I, because then what happens is if you're too married to it, if there are some opportunities which come in on the way, which may not seem in alignment with what you have thought, you will
Right.
overlook it and you will leave that, because many times some of those opportunities can be game changing.
Right.
So that's what I would kind of tell the younger me also, because I think I was also in that space that I want to control everything, and 5 years I want to be here, 10 years I want to be here, blah blah blah. I mean, it doesn't work that way, honestly.
Got
So
it.
yeah,
Yeah, Divya, we had like one question from our viewer, so
yeah.
we'll take that. So the person is asking that, do college marks matter in company, or, the kind of education that you have taken, matter in the long run?
Not at all. Trust me, not at all. What will matter is the knowledge that you have gained. That will help you always. because what happens is ultimately, so okay, if you're talking about HR, for example, right? So the core science behind HR, a lot of things that we do, like
Right.
talk about compensation, learning, or anything for that matter, psychology, organization behavior. That's what sets you apart from the other people in the organization.
Mhm.
Many times HR is construed as कि ये तो कोई भी कर लेगा, right? I
Right.
mean, if I were to, I mean, anyone can do it. The business guys can also kind of do it. But what sets you apart? It is that knowledge.
Right.
You understand the depth of it. I mean, so it's like anyone, doctor also, anyone can become a doctor, no? I mean, gully doctor, I mean, people will come and say कि ये, for this thing, you take this medicine at all. What differentiates a doctor? It's that functional knowledge. So functional knowledge is very critical. Grades, not so much. I mean, just have so much grades to navigate you through the school period and get into a good company for the initial cutoff. But I think that's it. Beyond that, nobody asks for it. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Cool. Um, yeah. So moving on to the next section, Divya. So how do you see the shape of current HR will change, in future, because everything is being changing rapidly because of technology and a lot of new things happening in the market. So how
Yeah.
do you see the shape of HR will change in, let's say, next 10 years or 15 years?
Great question. I think we are in for a lot of change
Okay.
within the HR space, right? I think HR over the next 10 years, for us to really excel and to add value to the organization, we will have to start thinking like the product managers, I would say. That's my favorite comparison
Yeah.
to a great
Yeah.
extent. When we say a product manager, it's about what are the problems that are there. And for product managers, majorly the customers are the external consumers. Here the customers are employees for us, right? And the business problems that are there. What are the business problems? How is it that we are going to solve for it? How do we start measuring it? I
Right.
think the orientation is going to completely change in this direction as we go forward, as against what we had in the past. I think, and that was much more in the past, but I think today also a lot of organizations struggle with that, and they're still in that zone that where they feel that HR's job is to run processes
Mhm.
or run initiatives or to ensure that whatever, it's a PMS time, just, you have to ensure that people are doing it, people are, it's on the system, it's 100%. Training, there is a training happening, there is 100% attendance. I mean, that's a great metric, right? That's not going to sustain over the next 10 years, and I very passionately feel about it. And we have to move towards it, because most of these things which we are talking about are going to somewhere, most of these things can get automated, to be great,
Right.
to be
Right.
honest, right? and
Right.
and you will see a lot of that technology aspects coming in HR also. So uh, the more the technology savvy that the HR professionals can get, it will really help them to create capacities within their own organizations and to actually start working towards which is the real business problems that they are solving. So that's the direction I see HR going, honestly.
I really love the way, I mean, you relate HR with the product management function and how it's gonna. I think
No,
I,
no,
I
I
read
think
I, I read somewhere on
exactly.
LinkedIn also your entire thoughts behind that, and it was really
Yeah,
inspiring.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, in fact, I think so. That's something. After I wrote that article, I realized I heard from some people that the Netflix HR.
Yeah.
So which was designed at that time by Patty McCord, is
Yeah.
pretty much in line with that. And then I read her book, right, The Powerful.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not just about running things the way they are. I mean, you'll have bots do that for you in a
Right.
few years.
Right. Right.
Already for policy queries, I have bots. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a period of time where for policy queries one would come to the HR department,
Right. Right.
right? So you'll
That's
have all
true.
of these things also to be done by bots. I mean, we don't need smart people like what we are getting today, right, to do all of these things. It's
Okay.
actually to solve the business problems.
And and how do you ensure that you yourself keep acquiring new knowledge and new skills to stay relevant in the system, right? I mean, it's going to be
Yeah.
really challenging for a leader like you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, there are many times when I also think that, should I go for the next degree, or should I go for some higher education or do something like that? But again, I kind of take a step back, right? I mean, ultimately, most of these things also they derive learnings from the organization. So I think one of the things which has been helping me is to constantly keep on reading, right?
Hmm.
I keep reading the book summaries, or some of these articles which keep coming in HPRs, and just applying, reflecting on it, observing certain patterns in the organizations, connecting with some of my peers in the
Right.
other
Right.
organizations, and on what are the new things that they're doing. A lot of these things, you get a lot of ideas when you start doing these things, and start applying, having some of the experiments done within the organization, and that kind of completes the learning, to say so, that you apply. There is a on the job, there is also what you're learning from your peers, and there's something which you learn from the reading part of it, which is a formal learning per se,
Mhm.
as you say so. Yeah, I think that's what I've been kind of doing to ensure that I'm at least updated to a lot of things, and I can kind of keep applying myself to a great extent. Yeah.
Nice. We'll just take few questions which are from the viewers.
Yes.
Um, this is like one very interesting question. So, the question is, who has been your most successful hire in the past 5 years, and what personality traits set them up for success immediately?
Okay, good question, in fact. So, hiring, I actually have hired quite a bit for my team, and in fact, I think I can be. I think I can be a little bit. Uh, what to say? I can feel a little good about it. I think it's tough. Many people have told me, and I've also kind of realized that I'm a pretty tough taskmaster when it comes to
Mhm.
hiring. Like,
Mhm.
in fact, many times my recruitment partners also don't like me for it, because they feel that I'm kind of doing too much of filtering. But one of the things I take pride in, that most of my hires that I've made in the past have have been very successful in their roles, in whatever they are doing today.
Right.
And I think that gives me an immense satisfaction. I think that goes for my team members also. So I ensure that even in my team, the success that I measure myself is in that how much have they grown as individuals in whatever roles, whether it is levers, whether it's Exceed, whether it's Flipkart for that matter. So how they are doing even after I leave, I think for
Mhm.
me that's a big measure of a success criteria. And I would say that 90% of them are doing very good. In fact, I did make one or two hiring mistakes. I'm not saying that that was perfect always, but yeah, at least I think that's something which gives me immense satisfaction. So yeah.
Right. Right.
I think what attitudes, I think this
Yeah, the
person had this
traits.
question.
The yeah.
The traits. The traits. I would say the first thing I would see is the uh, rigor of doing things, right? Because the rigor and passion is something I definitely look for. Because if you have that, you can learn anything else under the sun.
Right.
If you don't have these two things, then it becomes very difficult to kind of teach anything, right? I mean, you may be, and at the same time, you don't want a brilliant jerk.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who feel that they know it all. They can never work with people. So, I would say the passion, rigor, humility, and sincerity. I think these are the four things that I would definitely look for in any hiring. So,
Passion, rigor, humility, and sincerity. Right. These
yes,
four things.
yes, yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Nice. And I
So,
can completely relate to that because when when we started Board Infinity, we had a lot of youngsters with zero experience came and work for us.
correct.
And when we look back their journey in the last 3 years, and we see that the way they have scaled in their own career, it's
Yes,
extremely satisfying. And
absolutely. Yes, yeah. So,
so cool. And we'll take a couple of more questions. Yeah, I think one question is that all these top companies, let's say Flipkart, Amazon, etc. Um, what strategy that they follow to hire freshers, people those who come with zero experience?
I think so. Again, strategizing, most of it happens through campus, right? On the hiring per se. Obviously, there are some off-campus drives which these companies do for certain job roles, etc., where people can kind of get through. And as I said, I mean, the strategy for them is very clear. At a fresher per se, they are just going to look at the culture fit, the four things that I told about, right? Whether that learning agility is there for people or not. Because at that point, that learning agility is very important. That passion, attitude, that ability to work hard, go beyond the boundary, those things become very important. So that's what they look for. I mean, it's not much of a technical knowledge that gets assessed at that point of time. It again depends on, as I said, if it is HR, I would, you typically, these are the two three things which I told at the earlier call, right? Which is the
Sure.
org
Sure.
behavior, and your industrial relations and all of that, the labor laws, etc. But beyond that, it's mostly around these aspects. Even you talk about group discussions, so a lot of these companies do group discussions as a part of their process, right? So in group discussions, ultimately what they assess is how one is able to lead or how it has to be the one of these two, right? Either somebody is leading or somebody is being a very good contributor
Right.
in that whole setup without kind of hurting others, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody who can take people along in those discussions. Because many a times I've seen the fish market GDs end up being like, people are just trying to cut each other, thinking that if I have my voice above the other, I will be selected. That never works. In fact, that's a brilliant jerk persona I was talking about, right? So nobody wants that, honestly.
I am just, I could just recall that, during SP days, we used to have this saying that FMCG GDs always need to be aggressive and they need people those who are aggressive. So people will have like a lot of chaos in the GD just to
Ha,
ensure that they're ensure that, their voice is getting heard.
correct,
Um,
correct.
yeah, so which brings me to the last section of the discussion. I think you will also agree that there is a lot of noise in the hiring market, hiring space at this moment, and
Yeah.
for a recruiter, it's very difficult to hire the right person, and for a for a student or a
Yes.
somebody who's
Yeah.
looking for a job, it's very difficult to showcase their skills and get into the right job. So,
Correct.
how do you think that this maybe the noise could be reduced in future, and what technology do you think could play that role?
See, again, hiring will happen in different stages, right? So there are some which are like reactive hiring, or where, hiring is at a mass scale,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think in those kind of things, the strategy will be very different.
Mm-hmm.
But there'll be hiring for some niche positions. There'll be, which are difficult to hire, but very critical also.
Right.
So maybe in a mass kind of a thing, you can really kind of put algorithms. You can really, uh, use tech to do most of it, right? I mean, they can
Mm-hmm.
use the keyword based screening, and basis that you can kind of quickly have these video interviews done, video screening done, and then call them. I think that's a very different strategy, so I'll not go there because I think that's something which can be done. But some of these niche skills, niche hiring, etc., I think there, one has to kind of make it a long term engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and that will really benefit both organizations and the candidates. Like, coming from my own personal experience, I feel that maybe if it was just like a job market, some recruiter randomly giving me a call that there is something like this available, etc., I don't think I would have been interested at any point of time.
Right.
I think it kind of happened because there was a relationship, there were conversations which happened between some folks in the management and as a candidate between me, right? So where
Right.
you start knowing each other a little bit better, and then you start taking it forward slowly. So I would kind of say it as, it's like a difference between the speed dating and the proper dating. So I think, so it's very infrequent that a speed dating can lead to a marriage, but when you date seriously about something, I think it can actually lead to a long term relationship. So I
Right.
would kind of draw that comparison here. Yes.
And my follow-up question on that, I mean, so we meet a lot of people those who come from tier two, tier three, colleges and tier two, tier three background, like, and a lot of top companies will not have their hiring funnel from those places. I mean, as in the campuses they will not go to, and and a lot of these guys, they feel that it's kind of impossible for me to land a job in, let's say, Flipkart or Amazon or top companies because they're not hiring from those places. So, do you think that background does play a role while you're trying to, get into these companies? And if no, how do people coming from different tier two, tier three background can make begin their career?
So, honestly speaking, I think I know a lot of people who don't come from the so-called the top B schools, right?
Hmm.
But they're doing extremely well.
Right.
Uh, what could happen is, again, when I kind of study their journey, etc., maybe how they started off is not exactly the same way how these guys started off.
Hmm.
But after 4 or 5 years, it's not going to matter. It's
Right.
completely on the person's credibility,
Hmm.
and completely on the person's own potential, the person's ability to kind of demonstrate some of these leadership behaviors, demonstrate the right kind of experience that they have.
Hmm.
So maybe it is possible that the starting point may not be same for everyone, and it will not be the same even if you're from a same B school. The starting point can never be the same for two individuals,
Right. Right.
right? It will always be different. But
Right.
what you make out of it is completely in your hand.
Hmm.
And after 4 5 years, I've seen this doesn't matter at all. I mean, which batch, which organize, which campus you come from, these are immaterial. It's all that matters is what credibility you've built for yourself in the organizations you have worked in, what is the impact you have created there, what's the needle you have moved there,
Yeah,
and all of that comes from your personal credibility, and your individual kind of hard work, your attitude to make things happen. It has nothing to do with which campus you come from.
sure. Yeah,
So,
that makes really sense. Um, Divya, I mean, looking at your journey till now, do you want to share maybe three, four key learnings that you have had and you'd like to share with people those are starting their career right now and could
yeah.
be useful for them?
Yeah. So, folks, I think starting their career, I would say always stay humble, stay open to learning. In fact, I can say I've seen so many people who have been very bright, and they have a very good IQ, and they've been acing in their academics. They've always been like in one of the top ones in the college, etc. But they fail miserably when they come to a world like this, because they come with a chip on the shoulder. So never have a chip on the shoulder. However, how much ever you grow in the organization, or how much ever you've been like a stud in your college days, don't have the chip on the shoulder. I think that's one big uh, tip I would want to give to people, because it feels very bad when somebody with that potential, because of these attitude issues, somebody goes down, right? I mean, it feels very bad to see. It's a wastage of talent and the investment. uh, the second learning from for the campus grads, if I were to kind of give, right, I would say be open to experiences. Don't make up your mind basis what somebody is saying or some others. People will give you different views. First 5 6 years, just be open to new experiences. I think go with the flow, have new experiences, build breadth. Uh, because that will really give you benefits at a later stage. Because many times it becomes very difficult, even from a personal angle, etc., to do some kind of roles at a later stage, right? I mean, you may have more constraints, because as you grow, your family responsibilities will increase, and you'll have other things to take care of, your parents to take care of, and all of that. This is the best period, that whole 20s, right? The 20 to 30 is a best period where you don't really have to worry about many things.
Yeah,
You can completely invest into what you want to do, explore, do as much as you can, use that period to your
right.
benefit, to bator lo jitna ho sake. I mean, I would say that just go for it.
Yeah,
So I think these are two big things I would want to leave the young grads coming out of campus with. Yeah, because I've seen actually a lot of people start putting constraints in their life right from the beginning, right? Said at 23, 24, no, I don't want to go out of Bombay, I want to be in Bombay only, I don't want to do this. It's not that they won't grow, they may grow, but you uh, it's again very less. The probability, you're reducing the probability for
yeah.
yourself. So don't do that.
I think Mumbaikars many a times are also particular. They want to get into only Western line and not the Central line.
Yes. Yeah, right. So I think, yeah, I mean, okay, see, after 30, 35, you will have family
Yeah,
responsibilities, and
yeah,
at that time you have to make
right,
those choices,
right.
and it's inevitable.
Yeah,
But I think at a 20 to 23, I mean, why? You know,
yeah,
it's okay. I mean, you don't get to go to a pub daily. You can go to a pub once a weekend. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, you're not going to lose anything, right? So, yeah. So that's
right.
what I would leave with. Yes.
And my final question to you is, I mean, the hiring scenario, during COVID is, really challenging nowadays, and people are not finding opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And for the batch of 2020 people, those who have graduated this year, they are finding it very difficult to find good opportunities in the market and to get employed. What do you suggest to those guys? How can they, sort of use this time to learn skills or maybe get an internship or?
So I would say that even if there are no formal opportunities that you're getting to a great extent, see, because I don't think this is going to stay for long, right? Because things are coming back to normal. I mean, over the couple of next months, it will get back to normal. It has to get back to normal, otherwise we cannot survive as an economy, right? So it will. But I think during this time, don't uh, don't waste this time, right? I mean, use this to keep building some skills for yourself.
Right.
Even if it's free internships, there are a lot of startups who are offering this at this time, right? Because they need people, and you guys have skills to kind of give, and for you, it's a learning. Use it even if it's an unpaid internship. Go for it. Don't waste that time, because even if it's, I've seen more of this culture in the Western side of the world, where in the Western B schools, etc., when people go there, even before that they actually do a lot of internships in different places. I think in India that culture is not yet fully set in, but I think that really helps those guys. I've seen how much they are evolved by the time they come into the job market, because they would have experienced some of these things earlier. I would say these are good opportunities for you to kind of, just reach out to some of these startups. On LinkedIn, you find so many such posts that, we are looking for interns, unpaid, but unpaid interns, but we promise you like get best experience, etc. Try for it. There's nothing for you to lose, right? Do
Right.
these consulting stuff, go for it, and, get yourself, build those skills as you are doing it. It will anyways add to your resume only. It's not gonna be of waste. So
Yeah.
that's what I would suggest.
Cool. Thanks, Divya. Thanks very much for your time. Uh, and for viewers, I think you guys have posted a lot of questions. We have tried covering most of the questions because we had limited time. But I think you can watch the video. Most of these questions are already answered in our conversation. Um, Divya, thank you very much for taking your time out today for this conversation. It was really insightful, really inspiring for all students and working professionals to learn from your journey.
Thanks, Abhay. I mean, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah,
So,
same here.
all the best. And I would wish all the best to all the young viewers who are kind of seeing it. Guys, I think you have immense potential. You'll miss these days when you come to 30s, right? So, I can
We have
say
to
that.
talk
So,
about it.
yeah, yeah. So, make the most of it, and, don't take too much stress.
Yeah,
Life is not to be taken so seriously, but yeah, just go with the flow, start taking experiences, and I'm sure all of you will rock.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Divya. Thanks for your time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.